Ready? Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to session number 87, Behavior-Based Safety. This will be Granite Construction has been on a journey for the last 20 years. It is the journey of influencing safe behaviors and changing the culture of construction through applying behavioral-based safety. As you're aware, we've just started this journey, and we're going to be going through and hopefully learning a lot from them and their journey. So with that note, we'll go through and let the panelists go through and introduce themselves as they go through and lead us with their lessons learned. So I'll turn the time over to them. I'll go through and also pass out the sign-in sheets. There will be no CEs on this, but hopefully we'll learn a lot from them. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here. Yesterday I was doing some recruiting out there in the conference lobby with what I was thinking were like the shed guys and gals, and trying to spread our story around a little bit. But for the people I see in here that I know and I invited, thank you. So my name is Brad Sweet. I'm the Utah Region Manager for Granite. And what our goal here is to share what our journey's been for what you guys are knowing and has become behavior-based safety. So, would you mind clicking that? So I'd like you just to try and take this in a little bit. There's quite a bit of information on this slide, and we have an hour, which would be about 30 minutes or so to present, and then hopefully 20 or 30 minutes or so to have some interaction with the audience here and really kind of get the value out of the presentation, because our journey and what you guys are learning about behavior-based safety is there's a lot. It's very dynamic, it's super complex, and I think the value in our time is truly going to be in the exchange. So let me just take a minute here and share with you a bit of a timeline. And this is Granite Construction's timeline. We acquired Gibbons & Reed back in 1995. So at that point in time, there was kind of a milestone, if you will. So the other part of our purpose here is to tell you this is way too long of a timeline for a culture change. You are coming into what's been called behavior-based safety, probably in our world, like in here somewhere. So it's going a lot faster for you guys, and I think the reason that is people are learning from one another, and safety and injuries in the workplace, in particular our industry, they're just not acceptable anymore. So total injuries, these are recordable injuries, not just lost time. So anything that required a doctor prescription, stitches, or worse. So not lost time, but recordable injury. 74, these are 5-year increments. 74, 38, 9, 3, and 1 year to date. This is the incident rate, which there's an equation for that, but you can see the trend. Now, what I want you to realize is it's a good trend, but there were spikes in those 5-year periods where last year we had 6 injuries last year. So the other message I want you to hear is this journey, this process, it's never over, and it's all about you and the people you work with and your families and that. So I've written my notes a lot of times, so I'm going to go back to them here a little bit. What we have here is a team of some operations people. Isaac is our safety manager, but we thought it would be very valuable for you guys to hear from people who are in the construction business as opposed to, say, management or safety management. So I want to draw attention to that. I interviewed each of the region directors, asked them 2 questions. Where are you in this safety process? And what do you want to hear from Granite? So we tried to pull that into this 30 minutes. If we missed some stuff, and I see Rick back there, and I think that in my discussions, each region is different. They're in a different place. They're in a little different journey. It sounds like Region 4 is probably the furthest along in this whole journey. But that doesn't mean places in Region 1 or departments in Region 2 aren't further along than something in Region 4. It's a very dynamic and personal process. There is not one silver bullet to this culture. On the bottom of this, you'll see some cultural stages. This was us. It got introduced. It became forced. You know, you had to do this. These are the processes. These are the steps. Then we kind of started getting better. It's by chance, you know, we were having more success, but was it lucky? Or was it the process or the culture change? People started making choices. You know, it's about me. It's about going home. It's about seeing my family. It's about getting a full paycheck. It's about not being on disability. It's about all these things. I have a choice. Management, leadership at a construction company gives the employees the opportunity to say, I'm going to stop. I don't need to be production. I can slow down to speed up. I can make different choices. I can include other people. I don't have to do all this by myself. And then you get to more of a culture to where we'd like to believe we are, but things can happen in a second, and then you ask yourself, what's wrong with our culture? So it's a constant thing. Two last things here, and then I'd like to pass the mic and transition. One of the main topics, one of the main components of this culture change is that you and me and your coworkers and whatever activity you're in are identifying risks and hazards. In other words, you're about to go do something, and then you say, hey, wait a minute, that could be hazardous, that could be risky, that could be dangerous. What can we do to mitigate it? What can we do to eliminate it? That's a major component here. And you usually have to stop and look at that and slow down and consult with somebody to identify them all. It's a major piece I want to draw attention to. And then I'd ask you this. This is a question, and then we can carry this on through the presentation and then follow up in the discussion period. So what does a company, private company, or agency, what do you do? How do you change a culture? Do you just say, we're going to implement behavior-based safety? Well, it gets introduced, in our case, 20 years ago, in your case, last year. So how do you make that culture change? And for me, you have to want to personally. And so we'll go from there. Thanks.
My name's Red Elton. I'm the general superintendent for Granite. I started for Granite just a little bit after, this slide says 95, so like Brad said, that's when Granite acquired Gibbons and Reed. I started just a little bit after that. And as you can see there, our safety culture probably wasn't the greatest, 74 of our coworkers that didn't go home the same way they came to work in the morning. So, and like Brad said, that, it's unacceptable. But back then, when Granite bought Gibbons and Reed, they introduced the STOP program, did the STOP training with the supervisors that we had. And the STOP training, what it consisted of is basically a job site inspection. You know, you go out, you look at your job site, how is it organized, what are the positions of the people? You look at them from head to toe. Do they have their hard hat on? Do they have their glasses on? Do they have their steel-toe boots? Do they have their safety vests on? You know, all the PPE that's required. How's the housekeeping on the job site? What equipment are they using? Is it in good working condition? Then, you know, you look at the positions that people are putting themselves in. Are they putting themselves in awkward positions where they're straining or in the pinch points or potential crushing points? And so it was required of each supervisor to go out and to do these observations on their job sites and also other job sites, and fill out this card and then turn them back in. So also they started the safety teams. Our safety teams is where they get a person from every different craft, you know, some of the teamsters, the carpenters, operators, bring them into it was usually after work, and had dinner and talk about the safety concerns and things that were going on the job site. Back then, you know, it was more probably just about having a free dinner than safety, because we were hurting a lot of people for sure. It was new to us. I remember, you know, when I started with Granite as a carpenter, and I started on the Redwood Road project when we were doing 7200 to 90th out there, and I was building all of the drop inlet boxes. And I'd come from, I was actually a cabinet maker. And, you know, I come into the construction, you know, and I was used to doing things, you know, real precise and minute, into kind of a hack carpenter, you know, forming up concrete and that, when it's fast and dirty. And I remember, you know, my foreman told me, you know, go cut this rebar up. So he gave me a chop saw. I got this pile of rebar and stacked it all together, and, you know, I was cutting 5-6 pieces at a time, trying to be efficient and get it done. I'd never used a chop saw before. Probably didn't have the proper PPE on. You know, you're supposed to have the chaps and your face shield and all that stuff. But I'm pretty sure I had my hard hat and glasses on, but I know I didn't have fireproof chaps on, because I was down cutting the rebar and those sparks are flying back, you know, and I wasn't paying attention to body positioning at all. But I come back with my rebar all cut, and, you know, half the leg on my pants is gone, and my socks kind of melted to my leg, and everybody starts laughing at me and making fun of me, you know. And, you know, that was the culture that we had back then. And I would hope, and I know that it's true, that today it's much different. You know, we care for our coworkers. You know, our safety guy back then drove a big old white van, and I mean, that thing stuck out like a sore thumb. So when that thing hit the job, it's like, hey, put your safety glasses on. You know, the safety guy's here, safety cop, put your glasses on. And, you know, that's not the kind of safety culture that we were after. That, you know, you're putting your safety glasses on for 5-10 minutes while the safety guy's there. That's not the safety culture. But we've come a long ways. Like Brad says, it's taken us, it's been a while. It needs to go much faster, because it's not acceptable. And we've got some great employees that work for us now, and they truly do care about each other. So it's been a great place to work, and it's great to work in a place where you feel like you're working with family, and that they care about you, and they'll come up to you and talk to you when they see a problem. So
I'm Brian Griffith. I'm a project manager with Granite. Been with them about 15 years. I came to Granite in 2000. I got to Utah about this time frame in 2005, And one of the first things I want to point out is our injuries by far and away diminished, right, from 74 to 9. But if you look at this general liability claims, that almost $5 million in the same time period with only 9 injuries, that's a big deal because the claim value was skyrocketing per injury. And that's something we took note of. I want to add on to Rhett's here. With the STOP program, we also introduced the daily inspection forms, which were required with our form, and everyone did those every day. With the new employee orientations, we had a 2-hour orientation at that time. We only had a 15-minute safety video, just the do's and don'ts of the job site. We started doing management training, not just how to act safely, but why people act safely or why they act unsafely and how to manipulate that for the better. And then we started a program where every hourly employee took a survey throughout the year. It was a couple times throughout the year. Hey, is there anything we can do safer? And it was a card they carried on them, and it was somewhat anonymous, right? That they didn't have to get anyone in trouble, which was still kind of a cultural thing at that time, but we could still correct the issue. So we had mastered a couple programs. We added 4 or 5 more. And obviously the claims went way up. The other thing we introduced in 2005 and 6, I was on Redwood Road, not far from where Rhett started, on about 2600. And Granite had seen this number and actually realized not just that the claims were increasing, but our workers are getting older. 10 years ago, and we started worrying about, because we don't have a younger workforce coming in, we've got to take care of the workforce we have, so back injuries are a big deal. And we had a program called Motion is Money, which started to analyze, hey, where's your plywood? What's the guy doing? If he's using a saw, is he going to the ground to use the saw or pick it up? Hey, get those up on stands so the guy doesn't have to bend over 52 times a shift. Where's your portage on? I mean, if it's a quarter mile down the road and a guy's got to walk 10 minutes to it, 10 minutes to get back, I mean, you're losing production. That's how you get through to construction people, is you're losing production. So that program also started doing Motion and Money. And you guys remember the general liability claims. I'm going to talk a little more about cost here in a minute. And then Lee's going to walk you through where we were this year.
Hello, everyone. My name's Lee Young. I'm a project superintendent for Granite Construction, and I've been with Granite for 13 years, or going on 13 years, and a ton of change throughout that I've seen just by being here and from coming from another company to Granite. And so you can see my slide. I like my slide better than the others because I have smaller numbers. Our OSHA rate, the 0.3, 1 injury. And if you look at the claims of 219,966, that's huge to a company, right? Where do we save our money that we can put back into our company or our employees or our jobs? And through our journey that we've done and that we're continuing on doing as well, our goals is, first of all, of our employees. How do we send them home safe, put more money in their pocket, put more money in the company's pocket, and retain them. And on one of my notes as far as the core safety commitments, it's number one's our employees. That's our number one commitment to safety, is about our employees, because it's their families too, right? And then send them home same way they came, and how do they feel about their job? Do they enjoy their job or do they hate it? It's all about attitude. And then personal commitments to safety. If you make it personal, you take it personal. We started a program that, in my hard hat, is a picture of my family. My wife and my 3 children. Every time I take off my hard hat, do you know how easy it is to do a safety meeting? When you pull somebody in personally and show them how much it means to you to actually go home safe every day. Why do you work? We work for our paycheck, our family, recognition. That's why we work. It's to give something back to someone else. But you can't do it without yourself. It starts with you and ends with you every single day. And also, by doing that, personal commitments to safety, an employee, they value what you think about them, and you can retain them. We've had employees, we're a union carpenter, or a company, we're a union company. And we've had employees that started with Granite and has retired with Granite their whole career. Never had to go anywhere else for work. And so to me personally, when I looked at Granite as a company, that says a lot when you can retain somebody as far as retention goes. And then, how about public protection? Do you care what the public's doing around you? You know, as Granite, we really promote that. How do we protect the public? Because the worse than you getting hurt is hurting someone else. And so setting your company up for success. And so that's a personal commitment to safety that Granite's done in their journey to now. And then our Speak Up, Listen Up program, you know, it kind of hits home if you speak, hopefully you have someone listening. This started out with our supervisors to employees, right? Or safety to us as we bring it down our management to the craft personnel. And it starts out that way. But right now, it's from employee to employee. You know, I see one of you doing something wrong, and I walk up and ask you to correct it. How do you think somebody's going to take that? Well, my name's Lee Young. If I walk up to you and say, hey, my name's Lee Young, what's your name? And I walk across and I introduce myself to Mr. Thomas here. Thomas, Lee Young. Would you help me now more than you would have before you knew who I was? If I was a bystander, right? If I was a bystander that you just walked by and seen something happening. But if you walk up and shake their hand and introduce yourself and say, hey, I seen you do something that's unsafe. And there's better ways to do that. That person's going to take that as not a threat. But if they take it as a threat, right, automatically you go into resistance mode. And you're not going to listen to them. But as we're talking to our employees, now our employees will do this to anyone. And there's not many of them that don't. Even a lot of our employees, you know, maybe speak Spanish most of the time. They'll still walk up and do something. But that's where it begins and ends, you know, where the rubber meets the road is with your employees. And so that's our Speak Up Listening program. And we've seen a huge improvement, and but we still have more to do. Every company does. You know, we're not perfect, never going to be, but as long as we strive for that, we will try to reach it. You know, it's all about change, a culture change, and that's how bringing the family into that. Speak up, listen up, introducing yourself to somebody. It really works. And then operational excellence audits. That's bringing in a fresh set of eyes to do an audit on a job. And so Brad and our upper management team, it may be bringing some folks out of the office at any part of management. They may be part of just, our clerical staff to do an audit on a job. But our star audit, they go out, it's a fresh set of eyes. They go through and do an audit on a job. It's and then our star, when I say operational excellence, it's about safety, productivity, quality, environmental, and our code of conduct. That's the 5 groups that it's led and based on. And that's what our jobs are graded on, so to speak. And it has been tremendously how it works, because somebody else may see something different. See, because in my line of work, I started working in the big construction, well, roughly 20 years ago. And I've seen so many changes and seen other companies do their thing. And me personally, I've changed, you know, from then until now. And one story here at Granite Construction, I had one of my guys was building a large wall up in Park City. And he's up off the wall about 19 feet in the air. And where he positioned himself and onto the rebar and hooked his fall protection, he slid right off and he come right down to the ground. And he's laying there knocked unconscious, and there was a little pool of blood right by his head. And my operator says, Lee, call 911. You know, of course we did. And got down there, checked his pulse, I checked his pupils, and all I did was hold his head and checked him, you know, because you don't move something dead. And that's what I thought. I thought this guy was dead. And you know, your heart sank and you're trying to think of what to do and stay calm. But you know, my change came before that because I always wanted my guys to go home safe because what happened to them happened to me. But you want to talk about a major change? It happened right that second. And there's not a day that goes by, especially if I see anyone under fall protection or doing something else, that I remember that exact second or moment, that's how fast something bad can happen. You know, and so as we're talking about our journey, you know, it's about sending somebody home to their families and better than the way they came. And so that, with that, I think I will hand it off or back off. But thank you all for your time.
So in the questions with the region directors, one of them was, well, so why do you guys do this? Is it about the money? Yeah. What else? It's not just about the money, it's about the people, it's about the reputation. So if we try and boil it down from a Granite kind of perspective of where this journey's taken us, what are the main things that really means to us? And I think this is it for us. What you heard from our team here is a fairly long period of history, and we've kind of tried to condense it in a very short period of time. We have started and stopped more safety initiatives than maybe anything. Now that's good and that's bad, but I'd lend to say it's probably more good. And now here's why I mean that. If you're starting something that doesn't work, stop it. It's okay. It might not be the right time. You might not have the right people. It might, you know, it's very dynamic. It's people-based. So I want to read something here real quick. When we put this, so this was written by Brad, Isaac, and Shelley, because, you know, we're really professors in this whole behavior-based safety culture. Behavior-based safety is the application of the science of behavior change to the real-world problems. A system. What's a system? A system that creates a safety partnership between management and the field and focuses on actively caring about yourself and others. The system is the fact that you start something and you stop something and you change something, but you're working for these intended outcomes. The culture that you want, you know what you want, you just don't know how to get it. So, one of the things that, this is a cool picture right here. Riverdale Road, is that what it was, Griff? And a lot goes into something like that, you know, as you guys are in this business every day like us, and there's a lot goes into something like that. So from a reputation standpoint, and I talk about the start and the stop thing, about what you're doing or not doing, one thing has to be pretty consistent. As a leader, or as a person, or as a company, you have to maintain a reputation. So this is kind of an open-ended question. When you guys think of Granite, from a reputational standpoint, and what comes to your mind? Could mean, paving contractor. Could be, you know, anything. But that's a reputation. As a person, as a foreman, as an employee, as a business leader, you have a reputation to uphold, and if your message is that a person is more important than the production, or a person, your caring attitude is more important about getting the job done, that's the place to start. So I wanted everybody, and coincidentally Terry and I were talking about this yesterday, is that this safety is a lot about personal stories, and that's what impacts people. And it needs to be popular to be safe, because it's really popular to be productive, or this or that. You know, that's all popular and that's all cool, but we need to get popular in being safe. That needs to be cool. And I had a client confront me, and they said, you have two different expectations for safety. And he was right. Over here I had this expectation, over here I had this expectation. And it was a fairly honest moment for myself as the region manager. And you know, I'm not perfect, but I before I try and deliver a message to a production crew or a group of people, or, you know, I have to be consistent with my message or my reputation is poor. I wanted to share just something about Rudy. So he and I were talking. I hadn't seen him for a long time, and he's got a cane. And he told me about why he had a cane. And I said, hey, come tomorrow. I don't want to embarrass Rudy, but I go, come tomorrow, because the point of the whole behavior-based safety program or culture change is that if I had seen you doing that, I'd have helped you out, and I'd have kept you from putting yourself in that sort of a predicament. So reputation is a big deal and leads to more work, and we believe it also leads to attracting great talent, because people want to work someplace where has a good reputation, or we provide them a safe place to work. When we're recruiting people in the field, they hear from their other colleagues, and hey, Granite's a safe place to work. I can make money there and be safe. I can make money there and not get hurt. They will support me for saying I'm going to stop and take another look at this, because 5 minutes on the front end may save days of rehabilitation for an injury. And we have to start looking at it like that.
So Brad hit on reputation a little bit, but as equal to reputation and people, there's got to be a cost benefit, right, for a contractor that lives off a profit to jump on board. And when we saw before that our claim numbers had dramatically increased over that 10-year period, even though we decreased the number of incidents, we knew where the trend was going, and that helped us force that conversation of not just be safe because of the people, but be safe because it makes financial sense. And if you can get some of the top leaders in the company to believe that, you're money ahead, because all of a sudden everything snowballs. So one of the things with the cost I wanted to talk about is those numbers you saw are strictly direct cost. Medical expenses, indemnity payments, property damage. The bottom of that iceberg that no one can really track is those indirect costs. Training and replacement of help, repair downtime on equipment, moving stuff in, moving stuff back out, fixing it obviously. Investigation, implementation of controls, schedule delays anywhere from hours to weeks, low morale. You'll see it now more than ever that if we have an injury, people across the company feel that and are involved with why it happened, how to make it better, how to prevent it from the next time. Poor customer relations, especially at this private work where they can pick and choose who they want out there. If you have a bad reputation or poor perception that you hurt people, you're not going to work out there, plain and simple. And then increased insurance premiums. And so a perfect example of this is one of our injuries last year. We had a broken foot at a mine. That broken foot to heal, rehab, et cetera, cost $30,000. We can track that. But when that originally happened, obviously the medical staff was notified, project manager got notified, the mine safety professionals, owners, there's a whole chain of probably like 50 people that got notified for that one incident. Within Granite, I would call a safety professional, I would call my boss, he calls 4 other people, safety professional calls 4 other people. Within the DOT, it's the same thing. Once the UDOT project management knows, pretty well everyone knows. With some of this private work, we end up in internal meetings to discuss the 5 whys of how that happened, figure out that root cause, stress about it for days, if not weeks at a time. Then we have owner meetings to prove to the owner that this was a one-time event. So when you add all of that up, those hundreds, if not thousands of hours, that's an indirect cost that you just can't track and is probably 2-3 times what the direct costs are. plus that ripple effect throughout the rest of the company. So you see that for us, as much as it, I won't say as much as anything, it is also a financial benefit to the company to be safe. So turn that over to Isaac now.
Good afternoon. My name is Isaac Rodriguez. I'm the Regional Safety Manager here in Utah. And I want to start out by saying that, you know, I got a really easy job because I got a great team. And this is the evolution of this journey that we've been on. You know, we could have had the whole safety team up here talking to you about behavior-based safety. We're passionate about safety. That's our profession. We care about people. But you have operations folks explaining to you why they work safely, why they care about people, this journey that they've been on. And that's where it really hits home. And that's where you guys are trying to get there, and we want to help you get there quicker than we did, as we've talked about in this slide here, of how long it's taken us to get to where we're at. And that's what we're here to do. We're here as a resource to help out. I got a couple of stories that I want to share with you. One of them is when I first started with Granite 10 years ago, a little bit over 10 years ago, my mentor told me a story. And it's something that he always talked about in his presentations. And he talked about when his son came to work for Granite Construction. And that day that his son came to work for Granite Construction, obviously he went through the orientation. At the time it was probably the 10-minute or less than 10-minute orientation back in the 90s. And filled out his HR paperwork and payroll paperwork and to get paid, and then they send him out, right? Out onto the job. That safety guy, my mentor, went out there. As you can imagine, his son is a laborer on a construction job site, on a mega project. He went out there every hour on the hour. He had conversations with his son's supervisor. Hey, watch out, make sure everything's right, make sure everything's tip-top, make sure we're looking out for him. Is he doing everything right? Every hour on the hour, he was out there checking on his son, right? At the end of the day, though, he took a step back and he said, I went out there and paid some special attention, obviously, to my son because I wanted to make sure he was safe. He wasn't getting put in an at-risk situation. He wasn't doing something he shouldn't. But let's look at the people that are on this slide here and think about all of our coworkers. We are all somebody's son, somebody's daughter. We're fathers, we're mothers, sisters, brothers. We all have family that we want to get to, that want to see us at the end of the day, want to talk to us on the weekend, want to hang out with us when we get home, all of those things. When we talk about actively caring for other people, actively caring for yourself and other people, and that's why we do what we do, that's what we talk about. It's family to us. It's who we're with every day. Sometimes we spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our own family, right? Our own loved ones. So that's why it's so important to us. It's because it's the people. Another story that I want to share is a personal story of mine. I was working for Granite in Mississippi in 2007, and we had a catastrophic incident, and we had a fatality. Delfino Beltran lost his life, and I personally had to call Delfino's wife and let her know. And that was the hardest thing I'd ever have to do in my life. And I told myself that I was never going to do that again. Well, I mean, how am I going to call somebody and let them know? Now, their family at the time, we were working in Mississippi. Most of our workforce, their family lived in Mexico. And so we had to communicate in that fashion. But that was the hardest thing that I'd have ever had to do, and I never want to do that. I don't want anyone to have to do that. And that's one of the reasons, me personally, why it's about and why we treat all of our employees like they are our family. We don't want anything to happen to them. Now, I don't want you guys to think that it takes a catastrophic event for you to get to that change, right? To have that behavior change, that culture change, that feeling that, hey, I'm going to actively care about my fellow coworker. I'm going to go and talk to that person, and if I see them doing an unsafe act or behaving in an unsafe way, we don't need to have a catastrophic event. That change, that behavior change can happen personally. Now, we're here to help and talk to you about, our journey, but it's really about your journey and how you're gonna move forward from here on, and how you're gonna adopt some of the key elements of your program, of your behavior-based safety program, and how that's going to elevate and change that culture and shifts everybody's attitude towards safety. So we have an orientation. It's a little bit longer than 10 minutes now. We have probably a 4 to 5 hour orientation process where we bring every employee in, rehire, new hire, and they go through our orientation process. They get everything about granite construction, right? And sometimes it takes longer than 6 hours. I'm going to show you a little snippet of the video that we share with them. And this is how we kind of share our journey and why we want our employees to work safely, right? Everybody has their own personal reason why they work safely, but this kind of hits home. These videos hit home, so we're gonna share a snippet of that video to you to let you know how we express that to all of our new hires and rehires.
Okay guys, let's hurry and get this done so we can get out of here.
My kid's got a performance in school. I like to be there for them.
Hey Jeremiah, shouldn't we test the air before you enter?
Now we've been here all day. Let's just get it done, hurry up and get out of here.
Okay.
Go ahead, hook me up please.
Okay, you're hooked.
Yeah, guys, you're right. Let's be safe. Let's check the air. Sal, can you hand me that air sniffer, please?
You're unhooked.
Let's turn this on and let's check this air. Okay, we're good. Air's good. Okay, hook me back up, please.
Okay, you're good to go.
So if that doesn't want to make you check the air before you get a manhole, nothing will. I mean, that right there really brings it home. And it's not about what's written in our policies and procedures, right? Because we have policies and procedures in place. We have regulations from OSHA, which are law, that we have to follow, right? But in our orientation video, the way we explain it to our employees and the way we're still on this journey of behavior-based safety and this safety culture is not you're going to do it because it's written down on a piece of paper, not because it's law. We do it because of just right there. We all have somebody at home waiting for us, or something that we like to do on the weekends, or whatever it is for you personally that you want to do when you're not at work. And that's why we do it. That's why we work safely, so we can go do those things at the end of the day. This next video that we're going to show, so earlier this year we had a video contest at Granite Construction, and we had hundreds of videos submitted, and one of the grand prize winners was an employee from the Utah region, Whitney Street. And what we asked our employees from all over Granite in the country is, why do you work safely? Why do you do it? Why do you come to work and work as safe as you can and take care of your coworker and have that speak up, listen up conversation and do all the things that we ask you to do and all of those things? Why do you do it? And some of the videos we got were great. I mean, we had a guy rapping about PPE. I mean, he actually literally rapped about his hard hat, his safety glasses, his work boots. He rapped about it. It was great. It was very, very good, funny. This was one of our grand prize winners. I want to share this video. It's a great video from Whitney.
When I first started working for Granite, I knew that safety was going to be a huge part of my job. I was a little intimidated at first until I realized I wasn't just learning new tasks, but I was being taught how to recognize the risks beforehand. It wasn't long before I started to notice that I wasn't just practicing safety at work, I was starting to take safety home with me. I realized PPE wasn't just a hard hat and safety glasses. Most hazards can be identified, but by being prepared, we can avoid unexpected and unforeseen dangers. To me, safety is not about restricting ourselves. It's about protecting ourselves so we can live and work to our full potential.
So that's where we are on our journey. We're still on the journey, and that's a great indication of our employees, right? It starts with our management, it starts with our operations folks, and if our craft workforce and our employees understand that our management team and our top leadership really care about the workers and safety, then they're gonna do it, and they're gonna do it because they want to do it, not because it's written on a piece of paper or in a law. I'm not gonna speak for the guys here for the team, but you know, this is my family here. These are my two kids down here at the bottom, and that's the main reason why I work safely, why I want to get home at the end of the day to them, and I know that all the employees that work at Granite Construction, all of my coworkers, they have somebody waiting for them too, and so we utilize Speak Up, Listen Up. So when we're out there, we can talk to our employees and talk to them about, you know, the unsafe acts, unsafe conditions. And it's not always about unsafe things, and it's the recognition. I think Lee hit on the recognition as well, right? Letting them know, being positive. Hey, thank you very much for everything you did today. Thank you for, you know, sniffing the air before going into that manhole. Thank you for wearing your fall protection before getting up on that, you know, on that girder. All of the things that we do, it's about recognition as well. So, like I said, the journey is not over. We're still on the journey. Couple things some of the things we've thrown out there. Safety culture. You know, what is a safety culture? You know, and it really boils down to everybody believing the same thing. If we all believe that zero is achievable, if we all believe that every injury is preventable, every incident is preventable, then we can get to zero. We will get to zero. We can work without hurting somebody. But we all have to believe, not just one or two or five of us. The entire organization has to believe that injuries are preventable and that incidents are preventable. So before I throw out, you know, before we open it up to questions here, think about those two questions. Do you believe that all injuries are preventable? Do you believe that all incidents are preventable? So now we got about 10 minutes. 10 minutes for questions. And so this is the part where we want to open it up to you guys. I know you're on this journey, starting behavior-based safety. Any questions that you want to ask us about behavior-based safety, about what you're being asked to do,
My first question is, you have your Speak Up, Listen Up. That takes a minute to develop, and a lot of companies don't have it. And there's a very clear boundary between management and the general labor force, and there's a fear there. How did you guys overcome that?
Well, that's a great question. I think we overcome that by the management actively caring about the workforce and going out and getting to know them, building a relationship. You saw the relationship-based safety slide that we talked about. That's where it starts. You can't just go out there and be the hammer. You have to be out there and build a relationship with somebody before you can start to, ask them, hey, like Lee said, hey, how you doing? My name's Lee Young. Get to know that other person. Ask them some personal questions. you know, how's your family? How many kids do you have? What do you like to do on the weekend? You know, you build that relationship so that there's a trust factor, right? There's not a fear factor, there's a trust there. And then you can start to you know, if you see an unsafe act or an unsafe condition, then you work that in during that conversation of, hey, how you doing? You doing all right? You know, did you watch the game last night? You know, all of those things to build that relationship. And then you can ask about, hey, you know, that ladder over there doesn't look too good. Did anyone do an inspection on that ladder? Or, you know, look at this harness over here is kind of ripped up. Anyone do an inspection on that? Should we use something like that? You know, and I think that's what, you know, that's how we get to that point. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll just throw a little perspective on that. So time, but nobody has enough time. We want it right now. And it's all about a relationship. So how do I build a relationship with somebody faster? Well, here's one of my responses. So if I'm the top guy in Utah, and between myself and the laborer, myself and the workforce is, let's just use an example, this lineup that you see right here, because this is exactly it. You've got a project manager, a general superintendent, and a project superintendent. And below the project superintendent, which I don't know what would be equivalent in a DOT, maybe a shed foreman or something like that, just as a perspective. If those guys are saying, hey, management's telling you one thing and doing another, that goes back to the reputation. That workforce, they're done. It'll take 100 good things to repair that one negative input. So if Lee knows that he can blow a budget to make sure that it's done safely, and he truly believes that, then you're on the way. And the story I tell people, you always have a second chance to make budget. But what don't you have a second chance for? Rudy's ankle, my knee on a dirt bike, you know, the guy falling off the fall protection. So if people hear that from you, you truly believe it, and you're not being contradictory in your behaviors versus your words, then you got a fighting chance of speeding that process up. But time, which nobody's got enough of.
So the other question or part to that too is that all of us have been trained, and it's part of the culture now, is there's no repercussions. You can say there's no such thing as a stupid question, all that stuff, but when a laborer or any employee comes up to you with a serious safety concern, it's addressed immediately. I mean, we take that very seriously. So when you buy into what they're saying, I mean, they're all in. You only have to do that a couple times to take them seriously, and that culture shift happens pretty quick. Any other questions? What other questions do you have?
Just quickly, it just seems to me like the personalizing everything is a big key to your success. And I've heard a couple of good examples, the picture of your family in the hard hat, you know, the videos. What are some other things that you guys do to personalize things? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm with the crew every day, usually numerous crews and sometimes large and small. How many of you know your coworkers' families' names? You ever tried that one? You know, as far as, you know, I know your wife, I know your children, what are they doing today, what are you doing, so on. So personalizing it that way, and then knowing what they like. Like my wife gets mad at me because I'll watch CNN and then I'll go to ESPN and I'm back and forth trying to keep up with what's going on in the world, because you never know who you're going to talk to today or tomorrow, right? But if you know a little bit about everything that's going on, and it is a little bullshit, right? But it works. It works to making it more personal with people. And so that's other ways that I like to do it personally, you know, and I've been working with people and leading people for a lot of years, and when you look them in the eye and talk to them as a human being versus as, hey, let's go get this done. We got to hurry and get it done before our deadlines are here. We're not making budget. Let's increase. You just got to hit them home just like you'd want to be. Treat people like you want to be treated. Fair enough answer?
Rick, you had a question.
Yeah, part of the thing seems like if you have something that was good or bad or
not good enough. Not good enough, and that's probably one of our weaknesses right now as far as learning from or identifying a hazard somewhere else and getting that passed around the company. Big construction company, even from a national footprint, but then even here locally in the state, with hazard alerts, with different notification processes that get pushed out to people, safety meetings, safety topics, various weekly, daily tailgate things, just different modes of communication, from email to verbal one-on-one to text to just all those different things. That's something we could get better at. You brought up something in our conversation, which was an incentive topic. Back during one of those earlier years, Granite had the normal kind of incentive things. We went through a phase where it was part of the whole system. I think we've kind of transitioned from that now to more performance incentives. Now, there's a safety piece to it, there's a compliance piece to it, but we do have incentives built into our process or system, but it's not like if I do this, I get this. It's more kind of like, holy cow, man, that was great. We want to recognize that behavior. And so the incentives are there, but they're not, like manufactured, I guess I'm trying to say. But we could definitely get better at the whole communication loop, no doubt about it. One of the other areas that I think we stumble with is a follow-up. So we learned something somewhere along the line with whatever task or action occurred, and we go through the communication, the 5 whys, and then we get that pushed out to everybody. But we struggle with the following up on a regular and routine basis with, is that becoming part of our daily habit now? Or is that new thing, did it get lost in the shuffle again? Because there's so much stuff going through the pipeline, if I could call it that, with work and family and this and that and client needs and all this stuff that we get lost in the follow-up. We struggle with that. More questions. We have some seed questions for you, but yeah, really anything is open for discussion here. Let me just add this. The whole speak up, listen up thing, I struggle with that. That confrontation thing where you go to a person that you may or may not know well. If you know them more, it's easier, but if you know them less, it's much tougher. And if we have 500 people in our organization, I probably know 250 to 300 of them, but there's like another 200 that I know their face, but I don't know them. And I struggle personally as the leader, even going up to them and saying, hey, let's look at this, or what can I do to help you, or something. So that is something that's advanced. It sounded like when we spoke with folks in leadership, in particular at UDOT, that a lot of things got delivered to the agency here's behavior-based safety. And they were very advanced subjects. They were very advanced tools. That's great that you guys got them, but I don't think, and what I hope you all come away with here is that it's not bad to not be able to do them or use them all. You'll get there. So how fast and all that's just really a personal choice. So something else to think about here is so there's 40 people in here. There's 2,000 in this building, and it starts just one person to another, just like anything else. It can be that simple. So now you guys have that responsibility.
I'd like to thank Granite for their time this afternoon, and thank you guys for showing up. If you didn't sign in on the rolls, I'll go through and collect them from the back and make sure you sign up. I'll have them up front for you to sign up. Thank you for your time again. Thank Granite.